The USMNT returns as they face Jamaica. We have the preview here with former internationals Jimmy Conrad and Heath Pearce. We have context on both teams, players who are available, who aren't, the lineups, etc., etc. It all begins. Qué Golazo, USMNT against Jamaica right now. America! Yeah, all right. I'm joining Team USA today, of course. Hey, everybody, welcome to the USMNT against Jamaica preview, one of two friendlies this March. Of course, I need former internationals. Of course, I need former stars. Of course, I need to wake them up nice and early from the Pacific. We have, of course, Jimmy Conrad. Jimmy, what a onesie, man. Jimmy, what's up?
I'm very comfortable right now in my American onesie, and I'm hopeful that we have a comfortable win against Jamaica, which then bleeds into us having a comfortable win against Northern Ireland. That said, I say comfortable, but there's a part of me that kind of wants us to get a wedgie in some ways, right? I want the games to be somewhat tough and that we have to work through that, but we'll get into it in a second, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Do you want a literal wedgie or a proverbial?
I don't really want one, but this onesie that I'm wearing is kind of tight.
Yeah, please watch this on YouTube. He kind of looks like a super American ET at the moment right now from the TV. Heath Pearce, how are you, man?
I am. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. I like your little America thing at the beginning there. You got a good voice. I forgot that you were you have a stage presence in your background, and so
hey, I'll Whitney Houston this national anthem right now if you want me to.
You need to belt that out a little more often, man.
Yeah, well, they don't pay me enough, so if they pay me more, I'll do this in a singing. But welcome everybody to our USMNT versus Jamaica preview. As Jimmy mentioned, one of two friendlies that happened this week, and this episode is about the USMNT, and we want to be as realistic, as optimistic, and as contextual as possible as we look ahead. And this is really just first the Jamaica game on Thursday. So Jimmy, let's begin with you. Let's talk about the facts. I believe some players are not part of the squad. Obviously COVID is a major player whenever these international games come around.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we have to play Jamaica over in Austria just sounds weird. So yes, there's a lot of complications and obstacles in the way of getting these games done, but we need these games, and I think Jamaica does as well. And so it's really important for us to take advantage of this international break. We are missing Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie. Unfortunately, McKennie was going to come in. He's got a bit of a hip injury, so he's less COVID related and less restriction related and more injury related. So obviously keeping an eye on that moving forward. We have a big summer, of course. But outside of that, I mean, I think these games are great opportunities for us to see some players. And I think my biggest, I was going to say concern, that feels negative. My biggest curiosity is how we roll out our team. This is coming off, and I say this with one player in particular, Serginho Dest, because he's coming off scoring a brace for Barcelona over Real Sociedad, 2 very good goals. You can see his confidence is getting better. But that's him playing higher up the field. And if you watch that game between Sociedad and Barcelona, Jordi Alba, the quote-unquote left back, played it across for a tap-in for the quote-unquote right back, which is crazy. That's how Barcelona plays. Those guys get so high up the field. But I feel like that's where Serginho Dest is most comfortable. I don't think he is as comfortable playing like in a traditional backline spot. He likes to get forward. Those are where his instincts are. And so I wonder if Berhalter's head is being turned like, okay, listen, if I could maybe employ 3 center backs as my back line and then kind of have the 2 wing backs, can we pull that off? I don't know. Reggie Cannon and John Anthony Brooks are only available for this first game, so I suspect that we're going to see them start. So I think Reggie Cannon maybe will get the nod in this one, and then Serginho Dest will get Northern Ireland. I don't know, but really the crux of my messaging, the underlying statement that I want to say is we have a crap ton of great talent. We have depth in multiple positions, and that's not something we could say for a long period of time. And I like that Greg Berhalter has options. We have options, baby, and that makes me excited.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, those replacements as well, I believe Tim Weah, Nicholas Gioacchini as well, not part of it. There's some replacements as well. Heath, anybody in particular as well as we look ahead to this Jamaica game? Obviously, Jimmy focused on Serginho Dest, but, you know, taking in consideration the Northern Ireland game as well. Pulisic ended well, right? The FA Cup game before coming here. I believe he has to come back as well after this game. What are you looking for here?
Yeah, I actually think it's kind of interesting that our 6 and our 8 with Adams and McKennie are missing, right? But when you really start to look at building a World Cup squad or a qualifying squad, you've got to have the ability to have other options, right? If you rely heavily on the same 11 always, you can get into some trouble. And Jimmy knows this. I never went to a World Cup, but I believe, Jimmy, in your World Cup, you used most of the team and on the roster of 23 players. So when you're looking at that, who's going to be the backup six when Adams doesn't play? Adam has had a run of injuries in the past, right? And he may in the future. I hope he doesn't. But who is that going to be? Is it going to be Acosta? Is it going to be Odasowi? I don't know. I think it's an opportunity to see those players in those positions. And I agree with Jimmy on the 3-back line. We're seeing it more and more often that, quite frankly, Sergiño Dest has struggled in a 4-back line. He has. He's not a great defender yet. He has the time to become a great defender. But the reason he lands in a place like Barcelona is because they're like, hey, his starting position in a back four is going to be the half line anyway, high and wide, completely exposing the team because they're going to have possession because they expect to win that possession game and sort of death by possession. Whereas with the national team, you're a little bit more exposed. I do think he'll get the start in this game just because of his run of form. And ultimately, I don't think Greg is going to switch to a back three. So Dest is going to have to find a way to fit into the back four. And I do think maybe he switches to the other side for the second game. And then you put in Reggie Cannon for the second game if he's around. But for me, yeah, I think with those two midfield positions secured, you start to look at how is the attack going to come together. Sargent and Pulisic haven't played together since like 2019. Sargent, this is going to be Sargent's best ever team that he's played with, right? He plays with a very, no offense to Bremen, but a very lowly Bremen where you have your star striker doesn't score a ton of goals, but he plays every single game, right? I don't want to say star striker, but they're starting striker in Sargent. This is the best team of attacking players he's going to have around him. So it'll be interesting to see how they interact. And then the back four battle, I think, is wide open. You know, Chris Richards is playing now at Hoffenheim where he wasn't a few months ago at Bayern Munich. You have Aaron Long that's in the mix. You have Tim Ream, who's not getting a ton of minutes. You have Robinson, who's not getting a ton of minutes at his club team right now. So I think those are the two lines that I'm most kind of most interested in seeing. And then, you know, who could be the backup? Because I don't think there's a competition right now in our central 2 or 3, and then you add Musa into that central 3, and I think that's a pretty well locked in.
Yeah, Jimmy, here's a question for you. Part of a World Cup squad, of course. I'm just trying to think. What is a player like? Let's say, you know, well, screw it. What is a player like Pulisic's thinking right now? Do you think? Because you know, he's obviously essentially he was the first piece of this sort of pyramid that's being built, right? Of talent and strength, and then everybody kind of, you know, got better and stronger. Of course, McKennie, Giorena, etc. But what are you thinking now? Gold Cup later, World Cup qualifiers, of course, the World Cup next year. What's in his mind? Do you think now that he's seeing a full picture of the USMNT?
My initial instinct is, should I wear the beard for the U.S. team or should I shave it because that's what my grandma wants? That's
yeah, well, first of all, should I buy the beard? That's a fake beard.
Yeah, for sure. You remember when Messi got the leg tattoo and you're like, that doesn't seem like his personality. It's the same when I saw Pulisic. I was like, you're trying something new, man. That doesn't look like you.
A Mr. Potato beard. He bought it. It just does not sit him. So well played, Jimmy. That's right. First of all, shave that because you
shave that thing.
It's terrible.
Yes. You're probably going to lose a little bit of speed. You want to be more aerodynamic for sure without the beard. I think Pulisic in some ways is probably happy that he doesn't have to be the guy. Like, not everything is on his shoulders anymore. I think there was a period of time where we were anointing him as the next best thing, better than Landon Donovan and so on and so forth. And that's got to get tiring to always have to deal with the hype and always have to live up to the hype. And now I feel like he's starting to be surrounded by players that are also going to maybe take a little of that hype away from him and it'll be shared. I also will say that going into the national team, and Heath can speak to this, is unlike any other experience. When you're with your club team and you're dealing with the ups and downs of wins and losses and managerial changes and formation changes and not playing or playing, you get caught up in that cycle of kind of seeing the same people. And sometimes you're sitting next to the person in your changing room that you're competing with to get minutes. And so it's really hard to like be yourself and to be vulnerable with that person because you're still trying to put food on the table. You're competing against these guys to make it happen. When you go to your national team, though, there's comfort there. You can actually commiserate with, let's say Gio Reyna, like he's not playing well or hasn't been playing as well, hasn't been playing as much with Dortmund. Him and Pulisic can maybe room together and they can kind of just BS with each other. Like, God damn, team, listen to my situation. Well, no, listen to mine. And I think that's a really important part, especially because where these guys are currently in their careers, of having that outlet to be able to speak. And so there are a couple layers, I think, to Pulisic's situation that a couple of guys are going through where, yeah, it's just refreshing to come back into the national team. So from that standpoint, off the field, I think it's really important for a lot of these guys. And then from a playing perspective, it's very similar to what Heath said about Josh Sargent. You're now being around guys. Now, Pulisic obviously is surrounded by some really talented guys, but he's being looked at now from Greg as you need to drive the attack. We're counting on you to be that. And he really, I think he wears the number 10 shirt for Chelsea for a reason, because he wants that responsibility. So I think to have that again, to have all the focus on him and having a lot of things run through him will be really important for his confidence, not only for the US, but also for Chelsea when he leaves camp. So there are a lot of layers to Pulisic here, and I could take this a whole bunch of different directions, but I feel like I've had the mic for a while, so I'll share it.
Well, I mean, Jimmy, just one more thing. Can you go like this? Can you go phone home?
Phone home, Elliot. Elliot, phone home.
That's really good.
I know, I look like E.T.
Yeah, exactly. Heath, one thing, when I chatted to Serginho Dest last year, one thing that he said was something that's really helped is Greg Berhalter encouraged, obviously, this constant communication in their player WhatsApp group. And I feel that out of any nation, definitely in CONCACAF, I'm seeing such a family with the USMNT right now. I wonder how big that much of a role is, especially to the new guys, relatively new guys, right? Musa, of course, etc. What do you think about that from your own experiences? You know, the need for making sure that the squad kind of just feels like a band of brothers.
Yeah, it's huge, right? I think that they carried an unnecessary burden from the failures of 2018. But now you have a new crop of guys who that doesn't connect with them, right? This is a lot of their first chances in the full national team. And so what you're seeing on social media where, you know, when Musa decided to play for the US or Sabachu decided to play for the US, people are giving them love. And they're connecting that way. And yeah, there's probably a little bit of like, I could build off that person's audience because they're bigger than mine. So I'm going to comment on it. And the classic, like optimizing on social platforms type of thing. But in all seriousness, I think it's a huge thing. They're showing that brotherhood that Jimmy just talked about of coming into camp and relating to each other and being able to get away from your environments, your club environments, which can be really stressful and you can feel very homesick. Like those were my check-ins for me that made me not homesick when I was in the national team. It was those moments to connect with everybody, understand what they're going through, understand from others who are older than you if you're not getting as many minutes, if you're Anthony Robinson or something like that, to understand what it's like to be in the quarterfinals and have your peers ask, what's it like to be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League? Or, you know, those types of things. It's validating in a lot of ways. And so I think that camaraderie is really good. I do want to say that this team has not been tested a single time yet. They have not been tested by a good team. Wales is the best team that they've played in terms of on paper. This Jamaica team will not be a team that really tests them on paper yet. If you look at what Jamaica could be potentially in the final 8. But I think that will be the first step towards they're building this thing that's going to be ability to take some shots, right? If they are this close, they're going to go through this trauma together of drawing against Honduras or, not getting a result against Jamaica away and knowing that you now have to get it at home type of thing. So I think those are the kinds of things where you start to look at each other and instead of creating fractures, you go, oh, this is my guy. Oh, this is my guy. I know that if I mess up on the field, the guy next to me is not going to be shaking his head. He's going to be right there to make that next play. And that's the trust that you need for qualifying. More than World Cup, you need that for qualifying because you won't get there if you don't have that. And then those are the things that you build on that help to rebuild the U.S. soccer culture of what it means to play for the national team, the responsibility to play for the national team, and then how you can go about getting results and not this naivety of like, oh, we just have enough good players that we're just going to go down. We're going to waltz down to Central America and run Costa Rica off the pitch because that's not going to happen.
Well, it didn't happen last time around. That's for sure. Just an editor's note. Nicolas Gioacchini has been re-added to the squad, by the way, due to some, situations with the squad, of course. So, this COVID thing is so much fun. Who leaves, who comes back, it's so much fun. By the way, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a little bit more context on what Heath was just talking about. I'm just going to mention a few things about Jamaica and what the USMNT should expect. And Jimmy and Heath will give us their preferred starting 11 against Jamaica. If they were Coach Jimmy, as Coach Jimmy is and Coach Heath is. So take a break. Qué Golazo, USMNT against Jamaica preview. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Qué Golazo, USMNT Jamaica preview. Jimmy, Conrad, Heath, Pearce here, of course. All right, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty here. Of course, Jimmy and Heath will give us their preferred lineups against Jamaica. But first, we wanted to just offer a little bit more context on the Reggae Boys. If you go to cabsports.com at some point today, I chatted to Robbie Earl, of course, from NBC, but he also represented Jamaica at their first and only World Cup in 1998. He was actually the first Jamaican to score a goal at the World Cup, the Men's World Cup, of course. And there's a piece about Jamaica, but just a little bit of context. He mentioned it a little bit. This team that's facing the U.S. has dealt with so many issues off the field already. Coach Theodore Tapa Whitmore talked about it last week, his frustrations with the Jamaican Federation, basically due to contractual agreements, because some players are still not happy with their contracts with the national team, and visa restrictions. This is a 19-man squad, okay, that has a few locally domestic-based players, 9 of them, I believe. So they haven't played competitively in like a year. 10 foreign-based players. There is talent. Mariap is there. Andre Gray, of course. But also they don't have a physiotherapist or a trainer for this one. Okay. So that's also an issue. So, it's the typical problems that a Caribbean nation has to deal with. But to Heath's point, the real news about Jamaica will be later in the year, in June, when they really try and recruit. And we're talking Miguel Antonio, Ivan Toney, players like that to join the Kamar Roofs and the Liam Moores and stuff. So they are something's boiling with Jamaica. It's just that this game particular, maybe we won't see that, but they are a CONCACAF nation. It'll be interesting to see. And to Heath and what Jimmy said before, this is really the first the USMNT really needs a challenge, like a major challenge, to see what they can do. So with that taken into consideration about Jamaica, unless you guys wanted to add something else about Jamaica. Yeah, Heath, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. One of us has to, or both of us have to.
I will. I'll hop in after.
I just contextually, for people who haven't been paying attention to Jamaica, right? They are on the sort of hunt to building this national team again. And they are the forefront outside of, I think it's Curaçao and
yep.
Yeah. In terms of Suriname and Curaçao are really recruiting as well, like sort of the dual nationals. And they're looking at Ivan Toney, Damari Gray, Max Aarons, Kamar Roof, Isaac Hayden, Mason Holgate. And then, they're missing Leon Bailey, Alvis Powell, Kamar Lawrence. Like, this is like, people aren't realizing just if they were to land that, how competitive this team is in the final qualifying round, and now become outside of your Costa Rica, US, and Mexico, somebody that could disrupt and take points and potentially even qualify. Like, if they land all that, that is a very good team in CONCACAF.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention Miguel Antonio.
Yeah. Like, Nathan Redmond's another one too. That
it's just crazy.
Yeah, and so they're going to add a lot of flavor and some strength and depth, and Heath and I don't know how many caps you have against Jamaica, Heath. I think I played against them 3 or 4 times in my career, and you can't sleep on Jamaica at any point. It doesn't matter who's on their roster. They're always going to be up for a game against the U.S. in particular. We see that with a lot of the quote unquote smaller nations that have a bone to pick, right? There might be some stuff off the field, a long history of whatever it might be that does trickle onto it. And they want to win that, not just for themselves, but for their whole country. And you can feel that when you're going up against opponents that there's some animosity against the U.S. And it's not against us personally as players, but, obviously the symbol is what it symbolizes. You can feel that at times. And so if Jamaica puts this team together, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And to Heath's point, that's going to make it a lot more difficult for us to let's say, ease our way through qualifying, which is never easy in CONCACAF in general.
Yeah, and Robbie Earl said it to me, and it's a really good point. Coach Tapa, by the way, his former teammate for the World Cup as well, he scored 2 goals when they beat Japan in the 98 World Cup. And he's a great manager, and he's very passionate about everything that you just said, Jimmy. And, the whole thing is, listen, it's great to see a Jamaican manager manage Jamaica, and there's a lot of passion with that that goes with it. So it should be an interesting game regardless. All right, Here we go. Let's get these lineups. USMNT against Jamaica. A lot to pick from Greg Berhalter. Before I ask you, by the way, I just want to see Greg Berhalter like kind of loosen up a little bit on the possession thing. I like just be more aggressive. Like give me
good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. But like it'd be nice to see. But anyway, let's see that USMNT lineup. Let's begin, Jimmy Conrad, with your lineup.
Are we gonna go position by position, or do you want to go?
Let's go. Let's do this. Let's just do
or like lines.
Yeah,
like
let's do lines. Let's do lines. Let's begin with the
lines. Let's edit that part out. Let's edit that part out.
It's 7:40 in the morning, guys.
Okay. The party's always happening at Qué Golazo, everybody. I just want to let's do lines.
Is Golazo a euphemism?
You have to leave this in. Actually, I don't want to edit it out anymore. Lisa, please leave it in. That's amazing.
I can't see. I'll be watching Boogie Nights after this, everybody.
All right, I'll start. I'll say Zach Steffen in goal. Heath, agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
All right, so I think he's going to play a back four, even though Heath and I both think that maybe a back three would be more interesting for us because we could roll out 3 center backs here, but kind of trying to guess what Greg's going to do. I think Serginho Dest will be in there. John Anthony Brooks will start. I think you need a little leadership and experience there. I know what Miazga's about. I know what Tim Ream's about. I want to see Chris Richards is next to him, or Eric Palmer-Brown, who's getting called in for the first time in a long time. And then Anthony Robinson. I want to see more of him at left back. I know he hasn't necessarily lit it up on that side, but I'd like to see that balance of Dest and Robinson a couple more times before I rule them in or out. What about you, Heath?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Robinson at left back, Brooks being the mainstay in there. I think Brooks might be returning as well after a game. Chris Richards, interestingly, has been playing in a back three at times, so I'm not sure if they want to see him in this back four, but I think he should play because he's playing in the Bundesliga every week. And then Serginho Dest as well. And if you were to switch out a Richards, then I would say probably put in and try Aaron Long. See where he fits into the landscape at all. Again, not coming off of very significant minutes, but these guys are bringing him in. Hopefully they use him.
I was surprised that sorry, I did hop in, but Walker Zimmerman, who was MLS Defender of the Year, didn't get called in, whereas Aaron Long, who, listen, I like his game a lot, but I didn't think he lit it up defensively for the New York Red Bulls this season.
And to your point, when you said about, some other players like we know what like your Tim Reams can do. We know what your Miazgas can do. We know what your Zimmermans can do, I guess. But it's interesting that with some he went, with some he didn't. All right, let's move to the midfield. This is a really interesting part, I think. Let's go with Heath first. What do you think, midfield?
Yeah, so I've got a couple variations of this, but I'm going to go with what my best guess is, not what I want. I'm going to say Otasowie because you either have him or you have Acosta. Both of them are coming off. Otasowie has more minutes than Acosta, who's coming off of an offseason. And then above him, Yunus Musa and Sebastian Lletget. I think you're a safe bet in there. The only variation could be if you were to drop Reyna into the midfield, and then you could maybe have a Brendan Aronson with a Jordan Morris out, knowing that he's out for a while. Maybe Brendan Aronson finds his way into that lineup. And then again, with no Timo Weah. So I'm going to go with Otasowie, Musa, and Lletget as the midfield three.
Otasowie is the one I really want to see. Jimmy, what about you?
Yeah, I want to see Otasowie as well. I'm sad that Tyler Adams isn't here. I think if we did go to a back three, Tyler Adams would be a perfect fit as the 6, because if you did have Serginho Dest bombing forward, Tyler Adams already has a lot of comfort playing right back, so he could really shift into that position if we needed to cover that space. But Otasowie, I don't know him well enough to know whether he can do that. I don't think he's played any right back in his career, but I'd like to see Otasowie in front of that back four. I want to see Musa for sure. I think you need to reward him for coming to our side and committing to us full time.
Yeah, so if you don't start him here like that,
you got to make that. I mean,
good squad player for us, man. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, welcome to the squad. Yeah, so you put him in for sure, and then I would prefer to see Aronson than Lletget. I think Aronson has a little sauce to his game. I want to see what he can do by pulling the strings in that point, and then that will obviously influence my front three. So I would see Aronson, Musa, and Otasowie. Very young, of course, but why not? Yeah.
Well, let's stick with you here, Jimmy. Let's go to that front three. Let's see what do you have?
So I got Pulisic on one side, Gio Reyna on the other, and Daryl Dike up top. I, with all due respect to Josh Sargent, just like he said very early on, going with the hot hand, you got to play Serginho Dest in this game. I think you got to play Daryl Dike. I know Sargent has been putting up some good numbers and has been very consistent so far and doing all he can with that Werder team that he's got around him. But I just think that Daryl DK is on something special right now, and I want to see what he looks like with having Gio Reyna and Pulisic kind of helping him out underneath.
Yeah. What about you, Heath?
I'm gonna go with Pulisic, Reyna, and Sargent as my front three. I think again, working Sargent in I think it's a good test to see, can he go to the next level with better players around him. I think he's in his best run of form in terms of games and goals in the Bundesliga that we've seen from him so far. I would love to see DK get the second one. I think Sargent was originally only supposed to be in for one game. Now he's in for both, and I think that maybe throws things off a bit. I would love to see DK for the second game. I would love to see DK in general, but I think it's a rare chance that you're going to get Sargent and Pulisic together and really see how Sargent blooms. And by the way, I do want to say the last thing. I agree with Jimmy. Tyler Adams is the most important player on this national team right now. In terms of
100%.
Pulisic is the best. Tyler Adams is the most important. And without him, you are seeing what a giant gap could be in terms of protecting this back line in big games.
Well, the false two, baby. The false two.
Sleeper keeper.
Daryl DK, by the way, if you don't know, playing right now for Barnsley, who are 5th in the championship, right there to get a playoff spot. Pretty amazing. So that'll be good. All right. Well, that's it. That's our preview. I just wanted to end it though with final thoughts in case we missed anything, but expectations for this game, anything about the USMNT as we look ahead to this week, beginning with Jamaica. Heath, let's begin with you. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is a not so much a good test against an opponent, but more a test of we're getting closer to seeing our full first team outside of Jordan Morris and a few long-term injuries like that, and players that couldn't come in like a Timo Weah. But I want to see how the attack starts to come together. I think we are very locked in a few positions, or at least comfortable in a few positions of knowing where we're going with. Please note Tyler Adams' injuries in the future. But to see this attack come together, these are top players. Between Reyna, you have Brendan Aronson now who's really coming to life in Austria. I want to see that rhythm and attack that feels like a flow. If you compare this to what we've been grinding on the national the Olympic team, it just feels very kind of like get the results. And I want to see this team open up and relax a little bit, take 1G out of Greg's first name. You know what I mean? Like, let's take it easy.
I like that.
That's amazing.
All right, Jimmy, take us home. What do you want to end?
So to kind of follow up on Heath's sentiments, I just marvel at the depth. For years, we're like, how are we going to replace Steve Cherundolo? I bring up Cherundolo because he was just the consummate outside back, top professional, and we just didn't have anybody like him. And when he left, we're like, where are we going to get right backs? And there was been an emphasis. I've heard behind the scenes, we need to start developing outside backs in this country. We don't have enough of them. And now you look at our roster, we have Reggie Cannon, we have Brian Reynolds, and we have Serginho Dest all at right back. I'm like, okay, we're good. We got it all set. And I just feel like that's a sign of where this is going for us as a national team. This isn't slowing down. We're only going to have more and more options as this goes along. And that makes me very excited. So that's just kind of where I want to leave you guys on that, because I think you should be excited. And then finally, from a William Hill's perspective, US are very heavy favorites in this, minus 333 straight up. But I like them to win, US, of course, and both teams to score a plus 230 on William Hill. So I'm going to bet on
both teams to score.
Wow,
I like that. Maybe an Andre Gray goal or something like that.
I got respect for Jamaica. Having played against them a lot, I know that they got some special players. And because we can't even predict what the lineup's going to be, and because the players are, getting back, I think Northern Ireland will be a little bit tighter on both sides of the ball. But this first one, I think, could be a little bit more all over the place. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised and we get a clean sheet and win 5-0, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Jamaica's going to play it pretty close. I think they have the talent to score one.
It could be very CONCACAF. Right.
That's it.
Heath Pearce, thank you so much, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Jimmy, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Go USA.
Yeah. Hey, guys, thank you so much. And by the way, this same team will return in the recap right after the game. So have a good one. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. I want to thank Jimmy Conrad and Heath Pearce for joining me today. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Qué Golazo Pod. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We're on YouTube as well, youtube.com/Qué Golazo. Please subscribe and follow us right there. We're on cbssports.com. We keep coming with all the episodes because we'll have a recap right after the game, including a weekend preview and so much more. Have a great rest of your day.